She was sold for 2 coins while still crying her first cry, until a cowboy paid just to set her free. Under a copper-burned New Mexico sky, a rider bursts through the silence of high desert dawn. The hooves hammer so hard the earth seems to gasp. Inside his arms, swaddled in gunny sackcloth that is already blood-stained, lies a newborn girl. Behind him, 3 men on painted Mustangs close the distance, rifles glinting. A single shot tears past, and the rider relents, wheeling his horse toward an abandoned mission where mud-brick walls crumble like stale bread. He lays the baby at the foot of a shattered altar, prays once, then dashes back into open scrub to draw the gunman away. The volley that follows rattles every loose tile in the chapel. Wind carries the baby's first cry into the empty nave, echoing like a question no one will answer for years. 2 decades roll by unnoticed by the mission's ruined bell. The settlement of El Gavilan, stitched around a rail spur and a cattle trail, has grown mean. At the Dusty Spur Saloon, a young woman called Rosalind Roz Vega crosses the sawdust-littered floor with a tray of whiskey bottles balanced in one hand and a chain looped through an iron cuff on her ankle. No one remembers the night she was carried in as an infant, but every regular recalls the price. 2 tarnished $half traded by a drifter who never returned. Roz learned quick to read faces, especially when men decided silver could buy silence. She hides her own thoughts behind still water eyes, because questions in El Gavilan are answered with knuckles or cold iron. That night a storm breaks the heat. Thunder shakes loose plaster from the saloon's ceiling, and in rides Elijah Crow, coat dark with rain, hat brim dripping. Some swear they recognize him from war posters, others from reward sheets nailed to telegraph poles a state away, but none will claim it aloud. He orders coffee, not whiskey, then watches Roz as though he's hearing a story only she can tell. When a ranch foreman slaps the tray from her hand for letting a bottle sweat, Elijah moves before the shards hit the floor. He twists the man's wrist until bones chirp, retrieves a coin, and sets it on the bar. A silver $half, worn smooth as river stone. Exactly the kind that once bought a baby. Lightning kills the lamps for a breath. In the flare, Elijah sees the shackle on Roz's ankle. He asks the bartender how much the chain costs. Laughter answers him. El Gavilan keeps no ledgers for flesh. Elijah places a folded banknote, then a second, then empties his saddlebags onto the counter. Cartridges, a harmonica, a Colt that belonged to a major at Shiloh, and 5 gold eagles. The room quiets. The saloon's owner, Mr. Keene, spits tobacco juice and says freedom costs double whatever Crow's willing to pay, because the girl isn't worth more alive than she is entertaining his clientele. Elijah adds his final possession, a tin photograph of a woman in mourning black. Keene nods, amused by the desperation written on the stranger's face, and pockets the whole pile. Roz doesn't speak until the first padlock clicks open. She asks why a man would swap his gun for a waitress he's never met. Elijah answers that some debts follow a man further than any posse, and that the sound a newborn makes in an empty church can bind a soul like scripture. He pulls the shackle free, lifts Roz onto his horse before the stunned patrons recover, and they gallop into rain so thick the town lanterns vanish in seconds. The chase begins at dawn. Keene's hired riders want their investment back. A rival cattle baron wagers fame on retrieving her. Even the local sheriff gives pursuit because the law tastes sweeter with bounty dusted across it. Elijah charts a course south toward Santa Fe, hugging arroyos and dry riverbeds, keeping distance from the iron rails where telegrams fly faster than horses. By the 3rd day, their canteen is empty. They reach a trading post where the Navajo owner recognizes the $half Elijah spins between his fingers. He tells of a missionary who died years earlier protecting an abandoned infant from slavers. The story bends the lines on Roz's face into shapes she's never worn. Wonder, fear, hope. And for a moment the mystery of her origin feels almost touchable. Night swallows the trail again, and with it rides doubt. Elijah confesses nothing of the woman in the photograph, yet he stares at the tin plate by firelight as though afraid its memory might fade. Roz keeps silent, sensing the truth is a door without hinges. Once opened, it never closes. Near Socorro, desert fever grips her. Heat climbs her skull, eyes glaze, words ramble. Elijah rides into town, trades his boots for quinine and laudanum, returns barefoot across sun-blistered earth. He forces water between her teeth and murmurs ballad fragments learned on riverboats. Anything to plug the silence that reminds him of gunfire. As Roz heals, pursuit closes. A scout spots their campfire glow, by dawn rifles crack. Elijah shoulders Roz onto a palomino and lures the shooters toward a box canyon. In the echoing red walls he doubles back, topples rock with dynamite stolen from a rail crew, sealing the pass behind them. The blast sends up a dust cloud visible for miles, a signal flare to every bounty hunter west of the Rio Grande. They arrive at a Catholic orphanage outside Santa Fe, battered but breathing. Sister Maria greets them, her eyes shining when she sees the $50 Elijah presents. She leads Roz to the chapel. On its wall hangs a faded ledger listing children taken in during spring 1871. At the bottom, unnamed female, rescued at Nuestra Senora Mission, placed for adoption, donor withheld. 2 blank spaces follow for family name and fate. Roz traces the ink with trembling fingers while church bells call vespers overhead. For the first time she understands that a life can begin in a ledger, yet still be her own to write. Outside, Elijah saddles up, believing his part is done. Keen's men materialize like shadows cut from dusk. Their leader offers Elijah his revolver back if he'll ride on and forget the girl. Elijah shakes his head. Gunshots crack across the courtyard, fracturing the quiet prayer of evening. When smoke clears, Elijah stands bleeding but unbowed. 2 riders lay still. Another limps away to scramble a posse that will haunt tales for years. Roz rushes to his side. Elijah presses the photograph into her hand. It shows his sister, a nurse murdered smuggling children out of Atlanta during the war. He tells Roz that saving even one child means the debt is paid. Then he presses the $50 into her palm and collapses. Weeks later, travelers along the Santa Fe Trail speak of a young woman riding alone toward California, carrying a harmonica and a single silver coin drilled so it can hang over her heart. They whisper that she stops at every mission to ask after a barefoot veteran with storm-gray eyes. Some say she hunts vengeance. Others swear she seeks only to repay a debt measured not in money but in prayers thunder can't drown. Either way, they agree on one thing. When she enters a saloon, the room falls quiet, because her stare is the color of high desert sky just before lightning. Beautiful, merciless, and full of stories no one dares yet to hear. Under a dawn washed pale by prairie fog, Rosalind Vega stands before the orphanage gate that still smells of powder smoke. Elijah Crow is alive. She felt his pulse under her fingertips, but the bullet lodged near his lung forbids travel. Doctors say infection will finish what gunmen failed to do. Roz refuses that verdict. She rides west to Albuquerque because rumor places a Confederate surgeon there who sews battlefield wounds for whatever payment conscience can bear. She carries Elijah's harmonica as pledge and the $50 drilled to a leather cord around her neck. On the Santa Fe Trail, every mile breeds new questions. Why did a stranger gamble his life for hers? And who among the hunters dogging their tracks wants a girl once bought for 2 coins badly enough to kill twice? Outside Sandia Pueblo, she meets Santiago Graves, a half-Mexican freight driver with a wagon full of mining picks bound for Arizona. He recognizes the harmonica's etched initials, EC, and tells her Crow served under Colonel Harris at Shiloh, disappeared after a court-martial over missing Army payroll. Some claim Crow stole the gold, others that he buried comrades to save them from being skinned by debt collectors in uniform. Santiago has no proof, only stories traded around campfires, each one sharpening Crow's legend and the price on his head. Roz listens, wondering if the man who broke her chain might be fleeing chains of his own. They reach Albuquerque at dusk, just as Union Marshals raid a gambling house. Amid the chaos, she slips into an adobe surgery that reeks of carbolic. Dr. Hiram Bell is drunk on laudanum and demands $20 up front. Roz empties Elijah's coffee tin. 2 crumpled notes, 3 silver quarters, a harmonica reed she swears is solid nickel. Bell laughs until he notices the $50 pendant. He fingers the coin's flattened edges and offers to treat Elijah in exchange for it. Roz hesitates. The coin is proof of her past, but a future without Elijah seems hollow. She agrees, on one condition: Bell must travel to Santa Fe tonight. Bell balks, so Roz pulls Crow's Colt from her satchel and lays it on the table, hammer cocked. The surgeon packs his bag. Back at the orphanage, fevered breath rattles Elijah's chest. Belle's hands tremble, yet his stitches are sure. All night Roz and Sister Maria keep lamps trimmed, mopping sweat, praying in Spanish and English until dawn slides through shutter cracks. Elijah survives, coinless but breathing, and when his eyes open, the first thing he sees is Roz sleeping upright in a chair, pistol across her lap. News of the shootout spreads. Sheriff Delancey of El Gavilan telegraphs Santa Fe, claiming Crow murdered honest ranch hands and abducted Keen's property. The territorial governor authorizes a posse with federal backing. Roz and Elijah have 2 days before riders arrive. He can barely stand, but insists they must keep moving. Roz argues the orphanage walls are stone thick and guard their only clue, the mission record naming her rescue. Elijah counters that stone doesn't stop rifles, and the ledger answers only half the mystery. Who saved her, not who sold her. The real danger, he says, lies with men who trafficked infants across frontier missions, a ring still breathing through Keen's saloon, and perhaps higher offices wrapped in church cloth or military blue. They flee south along the Rio Grande, following faint talk of a ranch called Lost Prayer where children disappear into freight wagons bound for Mexican ports. Elijah grimaces with each jolt of the saddle but refuses morphine. He trusts pain more than narcotics after seeing soldiers drown in poppy dreams. Roz studies the riverbanks for sign of ambush, mind-stitching fragments. Keen's sudden wealth, Marshall's too eager to brand Crow a thief, Belle's fascination with the $50. The coin, her coin, may link everyone. Its mint year is 1861, first strike of war, a batch rumored stolen from a Fort Sumter payroll wagon that vanished on Route West. If those coins funded an infant smuggling syndicate, exposing it could shatter reputations worth killing for. On the Jornada del Muerto, water vanishes. Heat turns breath into sandpaper. Elijah collapses beside a mesquite bush. While Roz digs for a seep that may not exist, a shadow stretches over her. A Yaqui tracker named Jacinto offers a canteen in exchange for the colt. She refuses, so he offers water for a story. Around their small fire at night, Jacinto reveals he once guided wagons hauling crates labeled church relief that clinked like coins and wailed like newborns. When he protested, a man with pale eyes branded his cheek with a cigar. Jacinto lifts his hat. The scar matches Keen's foreman whom Elijah crushed in the saloon. Vengeance drew Jacinto across deserts, but bullets guard evil better than prayer. Hearing this, Elijah knows their path is right. Lost Prayer Ranch harbors the heart of the trade. They reach the ranch hidden in cottonwoods on the edge of Mesilla Valley. Night fog curls like spirits escaping corral rails. From a low ridge, they count armed men. No barns padlocked despite being empty of livestock. Roz slips closer, finds a side window, peers in. Rows of crates with slits for air. Inside one, a toddler stares back, silent from lessons in terror. Roz's stomach knots. She signals Elijah. They plan to open crates after midnight, but an alarm bell clangs. The posse from El Gavilan arrives early, lanterns bobbing, voices drunk on reward money. Chaos fractures the compound. Ranch guards argue with marshals over bounty rights. Gun muzzles flash. In the confusion, Roz picks locks, freeing children who scatter like quail. Elijah wields Jacinto's Bowie knife, cutting ropes, shoving little feet through gaps in the fence toward river reeds. A muzzle flashlights Keen himself emerging from a barn office clutching ledgers. He fires at Roz. The bullet grazes her shoulder. Elijah steps between, takes Keen down with a single shot to the thigh, then forces the saloon keeper to drop the books. Keen laughs through pain, spitting that no court will touch a businessman donating orphans to better families back east. Elijah flips a ledger. Inside lies his own signature from years ago, forged to the distribution of Confederate payroll coins as relief funds. The conspiracy framed him to protect the smuggling ring. If Roz were returned, her existence as evidence would vanish. Elijah pockets the page. Sirens of incoming cavalry whine across plains. Someone wired for troop support to quell what they'll call a slave uprising. They ignite the barn's lamp oil and ride with Jacinto and 24 children through rows of flaming corrals. The cavalry sees firestorm silhouettes and hesitates, giving the refugees minutes to vanish into mesquite mazes along the river. Smoke cloaks their escape until dawn when they reach an abandoned silver mine mouth and huddle inside. Elijah coughs blood, his wound reopened. Roz presses cloth, tears staining dust on her cheeks. Elijah gives her the forged ledger sheet, proof to clear his name and bury the ring, but orders her to take the children to Las Cruces, where a missionary wagon heads for California. He means to stay and delay pursuit with his last cartridges. Roz refuses. Jacinto proposes another path. Deliver the ledger to the Pinkerton Agency in Denver. They chase scandal with zeal sharper than any badge. But Denver lies north across 100 hostile miles. Elijah whispers the lullaby he once sang by campfires, a melody Roz first heard during fever dreams. He tells her stories never kill a man, only give him shape in memory. Then he hands the harmonica to a small boy whose crate he opened first. The boy blows a trembling note, and Elijah smiles. At sunrise, Roz mounts, children riding double behind Jacinto's wagon. From the mine entrance, she watches Elijah load his rifle and sit facing dust clouds where cavalry banners glint. She ties the ledger inside her blouse, grips the reins, and urges the caravan toward the distant line where desert meets sky. Weeks later, Denver newspapers thunder about a scandal. A human trafficking syndicate spanning territories, payroll gold, forged army vouchers. Names of saloon owners, marshals, even a territorial senator splash across headlines. Pinkerton detectives ride south to seize property known as Lost Prayer Ranch, but it lies blackened, horses slaughtered, ledgers burned. Of Elijah Crow they find nothing. No corpse, no rifle. Only a harmonica reed half buried in ash that still tastes of copper when the wind turns. On a Sierra Nevada ridge, a caravan pauses at sunset. Rosalind watches children chase twilight moths while Jacinto sharpens a hunting knife worn dull protecting them. Around her neck, the drilled $50 gleams beneath new moonlight. She wonders if somewhere a barefoot veteran walks ghost paths between cactus blooms, or if his story has folded into legend the way desert swallows rivers. She rests a hand on the coin, feeling its cool pulse steady as her own heartbeat, and writes in her journal lines Elijah once etched in air with harmonica breath. Freedom's price is never paid in silver, only in the tales the living keep alive. Somewhere beyond the dark, fires crackle in settlements that still trade flesh for coin. Rosalind Vega turns the horse west, ledger copies tucked safe in a saddlebag, curiosity riding side by side with a resolve sharpened by every mile of dust. The story isn't over. Coins still echo, and thunder always finds open sky.